This film is brought to you by New York Life and its dedicated agents, proud sponsors of the NFL's team highlight films. New York Life, the company you keep. The Detroit Lions salute teammate Mike Utley, whose courage and strength provided incredible inspiration during the 1991 season, and whose continued perseverance and will serve as an inspiration to all. And his heart was with his team on their first ever trip to the NFC Championship game.
I'd like to thank all the people all over the country, and especially Detroit, for all the cards and all the positive notes they have sent me. I had a friend of mine that said, one day God will reveal why He's let this happen, and I just know that one day something good will come out of it.
After winning a franchise record 13 games, the Lions' season ended where it began, in Washington, D.C.
Ocean man Mike Farr coming near side. Kramer back to throw. Sets, hit, ball's fumbled, and a turnover for the Redskins at the 10-yard line. Just what you didn't want to have happen, an early turnover. And the Redskins have it just out.
The Lions' 41-10 loss was as misleading as it was stunning. Never before had one game so profoundly failed to capture the essence of the 1991 Detroit Lions.
Touchdown, touchdown! Come on, Eric! Let's go! Come on, baby! Let's go!
The Lions fell short of the summit, but staged a season-long uphill battle that left them and their fans on top of the world. The roar was restored during the ups and downs of a truly impossible year.
Seven-0 Lions looking for more. Now he fires to Green. He's got it! Touchdown, Lions! Pitch out to Berry, left side, hole 35-40. Berry on the run. Look out, 30. They'll never catch him. See you later. Touchdown, Lions! Fires left side over the shoulder. Yes, touchdown, Lions! Unbelievable! Oh, my!
Fires to the end zone, and it is Willie Green. Touchdown!
Holy mackerel! He's to the 40. He'll score. 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, and it's a touchdown. I want to tell you, what a way to finish it up. And we'll be right back.
When the Lions arrived for their home opener, head coach Wayne Fontes had a weapon that was missing in a loss to Washington the week before. Recovering from a rib injury, running back Barry Sanders resumed his role as the focal point of the Lions' offense.
Hand off Berry, skirts to the left side, breaks a tackle, and he will take it in. Touchdown!
He did not disappoint, and neither did a first-year receiver from Mississippi.
Now fires wide open. Green, touchdown, Lions! Willie Green!
The next week, the defense delivered against Miami. While Mark Spindler and Mike Kofer came through with sacks, quarterback Rodney Peete delivered the key scoring plays.
Now he fires. Green, he's got it! Touchdown, Lions! Third down, goal to go. Bootleg to the right by Rodney. He pumps once. He'll take it in. Touchdown, Lions!
But with a 17-13 lead, one Lions miscue could have handed the Dolphins the game.
Inside 3-yard line.
Twice, the Dolphins failed to score from the 3-yard line, but still had 2 opportunities left to seize the lead.
Handoff, Higgs, hit, plus, Dan Owens. At the 5, it's 4th down. Here we go, 4th and goal at the 5. Marino fires in, it's broken up. The Lions have the football. Holy mackerel.
What a goal line stand by that defense.
After a gutsy goal line stand protected their second win of the young season, The Lions' league-leading special teams helped turn the tide against the Colts to help keep the winning streak alive.
1st and 10 at the half-yard line for Indianapolis. Lions leading 14-10. Hester in motion to the left. George to Dickerson. They got him. It's a safety. They got him.
Jerry Ball.
The safety started a 9-point swing that led to a flurry of points and the Lions' 3rd straight win. Barry Sanders ran for 179 yards, the 2nd highest total of his career, then added 160 more a week later in a 31-3 win over the Buccaneers.
2 pitch out to Barry, left side.
His 3rd touchdown, good for 69 yards, was his longest run as a Lion.
Never catching. See you later. Touchdown, Lions.
Suddenly, the Lions found themselves tied with the Bears at the top of the NFC Central Division. But in Week 6, the Vikings came calling, and it was they who were pointed in the right direction. With less than 7 minutes remaining in the game and with their 4-game winning streak left for dead, the Lions staged a comeback that will be forever frozen in the memory.
Right, fires long, wide open, Clark, 40, 30, near side, 20 to the 15, to the 10, 5, touchdown, Lions.
To win, the Lions needed big plays from the offense, defense, and special teams.
Get busy! Get busy!
They got them in 7 of the greatest minutes in team history.
It's an onside kick, high bounce, loose ball, and it is, let's see, Lions think they have it, and they do at the 43-yard line. How about that? Rodney Peete, back to throw, to the end zone, open, Green, touchdown, Lions, to Willie Green. Who else?
Minutes later, the Lions were 72 yards from victory with less than 3 minutes remaining.
The Vikings looked like they were standing still.
The final drive was punctuated by the clutch running of Barry Sanders. In the end, with 36 seconds left, number 20 provided the exclamation point as well.
3rd down, less than a yard from inside the 15. It's Barry, and he's open to the 10, 5, touchdown! Lions, Barry Sanders, unbelievable! Oh!
Teams have come back from greater deficits, but seldom has one team been so far behind so late in a game and bounced back to win. The Lions' 5-game winning streak ended abruptly in San Francisco. The convincing loss could very well have destroyed any confidence the team had built over the season's first 8 weeks. Doubt could have set in easily, but it never took hold. Lions fans wouldn't allow it. When the team returned to Detroit, they were welcomed by the first Sunday sellout in 7 years. Not since the early 80s had there been such electricity in the Silverdome. This game would mark a turning point in the season. Had the Lions left their heart in San Francisco, or were they eager to move on against another up-and-coming team, the Dallas Cowboys? Most of all, were they prepared to overcome the loss of Rodney Peete, who tore his Achilles tendon on the Lions' first possession? The defense was prepared and responded with a pair of sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. And the special team scored the first of 4 Lions touchdowns.
And it's blocked. Picked up on the run, William White. He's to the 40, he'll score.
And replacing Rodney Peete, Eric Kramer performed with the poise and precision of a veteran quarterback.
Down, Lions! Kramer back to throw, open man, caught Barry, Sanders, touchdown, Lions! Barry Sanders on the pass from Eric Kramer.
Any doubt that the Lions couldn't beat a winning team was erased during the second half when they outscored the Cowboys by 24 points.
Right, and it's picked off, Crockett, down the sidelines, 30, 40, 50, he's on his way, see you later, touchdown!
For the first time in 20 seasons, the Lions got touchdowns from the special teams, offense, and defense in a single game.
Defense played very well. Special teams played well, and it's just a great win for us. I'm very, very happy with the football team. How'd you get all wet? I don't know. I don't even know what happened here. I gotta get in there. All right, thanks.
Who was that Eric Kramer guy anyway? Too good to be true? Not just yet. Prior to 1991, his only NFL experience was 3 replacement games with the Falcons in 1987. Now, in consecutive road losses at Chicago and Tampa Bay, Kramer endured the growing pains that come with the territory. But fortunately for Kramer, Wayne Font supplied the patience and encouragement to help him over the rough spots. And by week 12, he displayed the resilience that would make he and his team winners. Back in the Silver Dome, Kramer rebounded with 3 touchdown passes, including the first ever to Mike Farr, number 81. But the excitement of the Lions' 21-10 win was muted by the loss of Mike Utley, who was taken from the game with a tragic spinal injury that would end his playing career. Incredibly, Utley's thumbs-up gesture evolved into a rallying cry that would motivate the Lions for the rest of the season and perhaps for the rest of their lives. The symbol of strength and resolve spread from downtown Detroit to the Upper Peninsula as fans and players alike moved forward as one. The next week, the Lions wore their emotions like a badge of honor and dominated the Vikings behind an inspired defense that forced Minnesota into 6 turnovers and 6 sacks. And they dominated with a record-setting performance by Barry Sanders.
Barry cuts it back to the right. He's to the 15. Barry.
His 220 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns was the most ever by a Lions running back.
Barry Sanders. And a draw to Barry, 45-40, breaks through, Barry's gone! It's a touchdown, Lions!
The Lions played this one from the heart and sent a message back to Mike Utley, whose strength helped drive them to a 34-14 win. Beginning in Minnesota, the Lions dedicated every game and the season to their teammate. They wore his number 60 under their jerseys and on their helmets. On Thanksgiving Day, team captain Lomas Brown delivered an emotional message to Mike.
Mike, we know you're listening. On behalf of your teammates, the fans, and the players, and the coaches, we want you to know that you are as big a part of this team today as you have ever been. And that you will always be a part of this team. Thanks for your courage, your inspiration, and your strength. We're all praying for you. We're all pulling for you. So keep the faith. We love you. And thumbs up, Mike. We love you.
The largest crowd to see the Lions play in 8 years watched as the defense was the star in a 16-6 win. But to have a shot at first place by season's end, the Lions needed to win all their remaining games. The first test came from the playoff-bound New York Jets.
Across midfield, 45. He's in the open, 40, 30. He's off to the races, 20, 15, 10, 5, gone.
The offensive line opened the lanes for a pair of Barry Sanders touchdowns, then formed a wall around Eric Kramer, who looked everywhere but up before unloading for 235 passing yards.
To throw right now, left now, long, wide open is Willie Green at the 30. He's to the 20. Protect that ball, breaks to the 10, cuts inside, and takes it in. 73 yards for the touchdown.
But there was a downside to the 17-point win. Rodney Peete watched as both Eric Sanders and then Jerry Ball joined 2-time Pro Bowler Mike Kofer with season-ending injuries. Wounded but dangerous, the Lions picked up the pieces and limped one step closer to the playoffs.
On the handoff, it's picked up on a hop by Tracy Hayworth, and he will score! Touchdown, Lions!
A win at frigid Green Bay the following Sunday would secure that spot. Against the Packers, All-Pro return man Mel Gray and the special teams made the playoffs a reality.
Mel Gray, one man to beat, midfield, he's gone! Mel Gray takes it back for a touchdown! Oh, my!
Never before has any team overcome so much adversity to force themselves into the NFL elite.
Intercepted by Sheldon White! Touchdown, Lions! Can you believe it?
After an overtime win in Buffalo combined with a Chicago loss, the Lions were crowned division champions. The Lions succeeded in a system where the team is stronger than any individual. Up front, the youngest defensive line in the league played well beyond their years. Before his injury, the center of attention was nose tackle Jerry Ball. The three-time All-Pro has become the first noseman ever to consistently make plays outside the pocket. Ball was joined by the likes of Mark Spindler, Jeff Hunter, Kelvin Pritchett, Lawrence Pete, and Dan Owens. Despite the early season loss of Mike Kofer, the linebackers gave the Lions strength in numbers. Three-time Pro Bowler Chris Spielman led the team in tackles for the fourth straight year. Others, like defensive MVP George Jamison, Dennis Gibson, and Tracy Hayworth, rounded out a unit that is fast becoming one of the league's best. The secondary improved as well, paced by first-time Pro Bowler Benny Blades, number 36, who led the team in bone-jarring hits. William White, Melvin Jenkins, and Ray Crockett joined Blades by starting every game. Crockett led the NFC in interceptions and was a special team standout as well. On a defense that rose from last in the league to 15th in 1991. As the defense continues to develop into a cohesive, efficient unit, the point man of the Lions' offense continues to push the outside of the envelope. His legion of admirers has grown with every game, and for good reason. When the juices start flowing, Barry Sanders becomes an athlete capable of stretching his sport against any conceivable realm. And he is gifted enough to push all athletic possibilities into some dizzy new dimension. As the rest of the league has learned, you can't tackle what you can't catch. Barry's road crew, the offensive line, paved the way for much of his success. They included Kevin Glover, Ken Dallapour, Eric Andelsek, Scott Conover, Eric Sanders, Mike Utley, and Pro Bowler Lomas Brown. To describe Barry Sanders is to exhaust the vocabulary of superlatives.
He is something. Barry Sanders with a move that Mikhail Baryshnikov couldn't make. The Barry spins free, touchdown, Lions! Wow.
In 1991, Sanders' 1,548 yards earned him his third straight start in the Pro Bowl. His 17 touchdowns gives him 47 in just 3 years. And number 20 became the first non-kicker in team history to score over 100 points in a season. Barry Sanders has become the state of Michigan's greatest natural resource, and he has done more than anyone to restore the roar.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Pontiac Silverdome. There is certainly electricity in the air. It's a lot different than the regular season. For the Detroit Lions, it has been domination this year, 8-0. In fact, they are the only undefeated team at home this season in the National Football League.
The restored roar reached its peak in the Lions' first home playoff game in 35 years against the confident and cocky Dallas Cowboys.
This is our dome, our home.
But this was the Lions' home, and they were hardly gracious hosts.
Now it shows blitz. Back goes Kramer to throw right now. Long for Willie Green. He adjusts. Touchdown! What a catch by Willie Green! Erline back to throw. Fires to the near sideline. Intercepted. Melvin Jenkins, 40, 30. Near side, 20. Melvin got a block. Melvin Jenkins, 41 yards. And the Lions have a defensive touchdown.
It figured to be a close, heart-stopping game. It was heart-stopping, but it sure wasn't close. The swarming Lions defense did not allow a touchdown. And when the Cowboys countered with a fresh quarterback, he was welcomed with disdain.
Kramer steps back left. Fires it in. 6. Open Green. Touchdown, Lions. Willie Green. His second of the day. And what a pass by Eric Kramer.
In one of the greatest playoff performances ever, Kramer completed 29 of 38 passes for 341 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Eric Kramer, short drop right, fires for more. Up, touchdown, Irvin Moore.
There was one line yet to be written to complete this glorious story. It was authored by Barry Sanders.
Away to Barry off the right. Barry to the 45 and bumps to the 40, breaks it 35, 30. He's gone. Unbelievable. Touchdown, Lions, Barry Sanders. Oh my gosh, what a run. Wow. I'll tell you what, every time we talk about Barry, we say that's the greatest run, that's the greatest run. That might have been the greatest run. That was unbelievable.
The unforgettable run put the finishing touch on a win that vaulted the Lions into the upper echelon of the NFL. It marked the highest point in a dream season, an impossible year for a team that drew its soul and inspiration from adversity.
What a great win, boss. There you go. I'm happy for you and your family.
From 6 wins to 13 in a single season, the Lions forged the greatest turnaround of 1991. For owner and president William Clay Ford. For NFL Coach of the Year Wayne Fonts. And for the Detroit Lions, thumbs up to a team whose heart made them a champion.
Hi, I'm Steve Sable. 13 wins in one season, more than any Lions fan could have dreamed of. But this year, winning 13 games will be an even more extraordinary feat for several reasons. One, well, first of all, the Lions have made the rest of the league believers and can no longer sneak up on anyone. And two, as a result of their success, they will pay the price of a much tougher schedule. In 1992, Detroit will meet division winners New Orleans, Dallas, and Houston, the world champion Redskins, along with San Francisco, and of course, their traditional NFC Central foes. The only thing tougher than winning a division championship will be defending it. To do that, the Lions must continue to stand tall in 1992.
We're not going to rest on last year and think that next year all we're going to do is go out and throw our helmet and people are going to fall down and fold up the tents. We realize the sacrifice that it does take to win, and we have to continue to do that.
In the Lions' rise from almost worst to first, they developed a bond that matches quality people with a quality system.
The best thing I say about our organization, Mr. Ford's organization, it's our football team, we are going to surround ourselves with the best people available.
Last season, many of the Lions' best people were unavailable, from quarterback Rodney Peete to the NFL's premier nose tackle Jerry Ball to veteran leader Mike Kofer. In 1992, they will all return for another run at a division title. Kofer, out for all but 2 games last year, will look to reclaim his outside linebacker spot and regain his Pro Bowl form. Jerry Wrecking Ball will settle back in the middle of the defensive line, where he has managed to dismantle opposing offenses at an alarming rate. After all, no 300-pound lineman is expected to move quite the way he does, with frightening power and purpose.
Jerry Ball, I think, surprised a lot of people. I think a lot of people understood Jerry Ball as, of course, being a good football player. Big, very quick, strong. The thing that Jerry Ball had this season, he captured the team's imagination of the way he practiced, his leadership. I think all that had a lot to do with us winning. I think Jerry Ball became a leader this year, which was a great thing for our team.
Ball now joins Chris Spielman, Mike Kofer, and Benny Blades in giving the Lions the quality veteran leadership that has been lacking since Doug English retired in 1985. Leadership on the offensive side of the ball will be provided in part by quarterback Rodney Peete, who spent most of 1991 watching as the Lions vaulted to the top of the NFC Central.
For me personally, it was an exciting season and a frustrating one at the same time. I wasn't able to finish the season and go on to the playoffs and be a part of that with the team, but it was exciting to see our team grow like that. I mean, we have a relatively young team, but to see us mature throughout the season was something that was very exciting. Hopefully we can keep that going for years to come.
Peete and storybook star Eric Kramer will compete at quarterback, and Kramer shows no signs of losing his competitive edge.
I think we all got to come back as hungry as we were last year. You know, we're not going to surprise any people now, and the schedule's going to reflect that. And me personally, I am just going to come back and try and be in his best shape and in the best frame of mind possible.
Kramer and Peete find themselves with a young yet proven core of wide receivers. That includes Willie Green. In his first season, Green was the Lions' most productive long ball threat and led all receivers with 7 touchdowns. In his first season in Detroit, Brett Perriman led the team in receptions. And the best is yet to come from Mike Farr and promising rookie Herman Moore, number 84. You can't say much more about Barry Sanders except that his pass-catching skills continue to improve and that he will begin to get more blocking help from a 2-back set. This will lead to more sweeps and more opportunities for Barry to work in open spaces. Youth is also a quality that defines the Lions' improving defense. Last season, only one Lions defender had as much as 5 years' experience as a professional. And in 1991, all of them learned an important lesson: how to win.
Previous years, there was always a question mark of whether we could do what we wanted to do, and that was win. Coming into this year, there's no question mark. We've already established that we can win. Now the pressure is on for us to keep that going. This team's minds are young enough where they're molded now to the knowing the feeling of winning. And with the young football team that we have, we can win around here for a long time if everybody keeps focused and understands the sacrifices that have to be made to be a winner.
I think what we all have to do is step back and take a look at ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. I think we have to be critical of ourselves. The last thing we can do now is get carried away with ourselves, pound our chests, and think that we've got it made. So I think what my job is, certainly what Wayne's job and some of the leaders on this football team's job, is to make sure that everybody stays focused, nobody gets carried away with themselves, no one loses sight of the team goals, so that we're going to work hard for this year because everybody's going to be gunning for us.
The Lions can look forward to many happy returns in 1992, but only if they don't look back, carry themselves like champions, and step up to the next level with the same enthusiasm that has made them a team to be reckoned with. Then, Lions fans can prepare to hang a championship banner in the Silverdome.
Until this past season, the Detroit Lions have seldom made an impact on the NFL. But in the 1950s, they were NFL champions 3 times. And in the 60s, they fielded one of the league's most feared defenses. It was then, in America's most turbulent decade, that the Lions featured 2 of the NFL's most reckless and daring defenders, Dick Night Train Lane and Alex Karras. Now, Karras was one of the NFL's most colorful players in the 60s. Now an actor, he's the first to tell you that, well, he's no Robert Redford. But in 12 seasons as a defensive tackle, the 4-time All-Pro punished ball carriers with the kind of ferocity that made the Terminator look like a wind-up toy. But first, let's take a look at the original NFL Terminator, one of only 4 free agents to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He attended Scottsbluff Junior College in Nebraska and was never drafted. But it didn't take long for the NFL to discover that when Dick Night Train Lane got up a full head of steam, he could derail any opponent.
When street corner harmonies were cool, the hottest sounds in pro football were being made by a player with the most unique nickname.
Night Train!
Number 81, Dick Night Train Lane, played cornerback for the Cardinals, Lions, and Rams in the 50s and 60s. A dazzling, versatile athlete, the Train was a locomotive who pulled his teams to victory in a dramatic variety of ways. As a rookie with the Rams in 1952, he intercepted 14 passes, still the highest single-season total in NFL history. In desperate times, the Chicago Cardinals deployed their star defender as a receiver. One result was a 98-yard touchdown, the longest in team history.
When you're talking about Night Train Lane, you're talking about, in my book, the greatest defensive back that ever played the game.
Night Train is the first cornerman that I ever saw in the National Football League that could play the bump and run.
We had so much, felt so much toward Night Train Lane that he came out in one ball game and said, "I don't even want you throwing the football over that side." I said, "You can't go into a ball game and give a guy a free ride. You just can't do that." But he said, "Don't throw it."
While Lane made Unitas pay dearly for defying Coach Reed Eubank, he often defied conventional behavior himself by wearing astronaut clothing and displaying a far-out personality.
He came from Texas, and he spoke this very strange language that nobody could quite understand.
Tried to catch man by it. When the Cleveland Browns, anytime they come, they were just a class. They always had the stripes down there. And I said, man.
I'm not even sure that he understood a lot of what he was saying.
We were all sitting down and we were trying to get an adjustment on our contract. So we were in this office with E.J. Anderson, who was at that time the general manager, and he had on the blackboard behind him all these numbers. Popcorn, 25 cents a box, now going up to 30, all the costs. And Night Train was in the back of the room just steaming. And he finally looked up, he said, "Say, Mr. Anderson?" He said, "Yes, Night Train." He said, "Am I under the consumption that there ain't no more money?"
Night Train's tackles were anything but funny. His motto was hang 'em high. and his signature hits were more like stranglings or beheadings.
I know when he went to the Detroit Lions, and he was my opponent at that time, you got to think about it, because he hurt you.
Oh, he'd kill you. Kill you. He wouldn't tackle you necessarily fair. It wouldn't be a fair tackle. They made a head tackle an outlaw because of Night Train Lane. Train would just reach and grab him by his neck and just pull him down, and that's called the Night Train neck tackle.
He'd grab your face mask. I remember somebody speaking to Train about it. Train said, I'll grab him by his eyebrows if that's the way I can get him down.
Because if you don't hit him right, you break your elbow, your arm or something, you know. So you got to really get him right in front of you and hit him with that forearm and rip him up.
However, his love for hitting led to hateful mistakes. Sometimes he even traded punches and lost. The meek did not inherit this turf, and opponents went to any extremes to pay him back, to rub him out. Perhaps this one play reveals Lane's greatness, his competitive fire. For Night Train Lane never gave up, never quit on a play. In the slang of the times, he bopped till he dropped.
Probably even playing today, Night Train Lane would be as good as any cornerback in football. He had to be the prototype for what an NFL cornerback should be.
He was one of the few players that hurt you every time he tackled you, Butkus being the other one.
Night Train Lane was the hardest hitter of any defensive back in pro football history, and arguably the greatest player at his position. Now this free agent who once hung 'em high hangs himself in the Hall of Fame.
I realized when I was at a very young age, if I was to stand and do battle with anyone head up, that I could get hurt.
But when number 71, Alex Karras, joined the NFL, he never flinched from head-on combat. The prospect of getting hurt never seemed to bother him, and he could run a long way to inflict pain on others. Karras was blessed with enormous upper body strength and uncommon quickness.
He could get under your pads and he could go by you. He could make your body turn in ways you didn't want to turn. He was an NCAA wrestling champion, so he understood strength and leverage.
Opponents often tried to double team him, but Karras had the ability to make 2 against 1 look like a mismatch. His pass rushing technique was devastating and dainty.
Alex had a very unusual style of pass rushing. He would get up and he would run very quickly on mincing steps, and he was actually on the tip of his toes, and that's why he was called Tippy Toes.
Alex Karras was a great comic figure and a fantasist. And I remember once asking him what he wanted to be when he left football, and he said, I want to be a Western movie star. He said, no, I don't want to be called Slim or Tex or anything like that. I want to be called, what was the name he picked for himself? Ace Zerblonsky, that was it. He said he wanted, that was his name. He said, I want to have a different sort of a name. Ace Zerblonsky he wanted to be, and not only that, but he didn't want to wear a cowboy hat. He wanted to carry a little Japanese parasol.
Come game time, he preferred playing the role of villain.
He was nasty. He would intimidate you with his chatter.
I could get some of them very mad and so upset that they were like the giant bull that would just want to kill me as opposed to setting up and zeroing in on me.
I would build up a hatred. I would start cussing him, and I would start thinking about him
maybe a little bit on Tuesday, a little more on Wednesday, and a little more on Thursday, and all day Friday, and all day Saturday, and all day Saturday night, and Sunday morning, to the point where I had worked myself into an emotional state.
They would get so crazy that they would try to hurt me. And then that's the people that never touched me.
Karras's tongue was a lot sharper than his eyesight. Although he saw well enough to find his way to the quarterback, Karras's bad vision and his bad temper enhanced his reputation as a man who played in a blind rage.
We were playing the Bears one time in Chicago, and about in the third quarter, I looked over, and this guy's holding Alex, and Alex is yelling at the guy, "Damn it, stop holding me," you know, and was kicking the guy. And the guy was his brother, Ted Karras. Alex didn't know it was his brother.
Alex Karras was two totally different people off the field and on the field. On the field, he hated anybody that had another uniform color on. Meanest man alive. But off the field, just a nice guy.
You're two characters. You become kind of schizophrenic. What happens is that you are this, whoever you are off the field, and when you're on the field, you are playing the game of war.
In the game of war, Alex Karras distinguished himself for 12 seasons. A four-time All-Pro, he was selected to the Pro Bowl 3 years in a row. This mighty warrior who muscled his way to the quarterback on mincing steps was part Conan, part comedian. Alex Karras was a one-of-a-kind player, a unique individual, and a legendary lineman.